Good morning, everyone. We missed the snow, so we're lucky again, so. Need to call the meeting order. If everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As usual, please silence your cell phone. Ms. Settles, roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks,
Here.
Commissioner Field,
Here.
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
Commissioner Withrow.
Here.
We have a quorum and ready for the transaction of business.
Thank you, Stephanie. Ms. Miller, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 4A, we have the minutes from the January 23rd, 2024 regular meeting. If everybody has had an opportunity to review those, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to section 5 of the meeting, special presentations. There are a number of community partners that we have throughout the area, and previously we asked them to regularly come in and just provide us a brief update about how things are going with their organization. So the goal is to start to get that back on cycle. There's no decision that will come before you at these meetings. It's just a presentation of information. So Ms. Hatmaker is here today to briefly talk to you about the farmers market and provide an update on all of the wonderful things going on at the farmers market. Good morning, ma'am.
Hi. I didn't know I was going to get to be the first. Well, like she said, my name is Holly Hatmaker. I am a local farmer, vegetable producer, poultry producer here in Bourbon County. But today I come to you as the president of the Paris Bourbon County Farmers Market. And first off, let me just say that we appreciate the continued support of all of our community partners and the city of Paris and our county. We just had our annual meeting in January. We host our annual meeting at the market every January and kind of just highlight the things that have gone on in the previous year. So we had that meeting, and one of the things that we've prided ourselves over the last couple years is that meeting was really very small. Not many producers actually came to know what was going on. And in the last several years, we've had more producers, artisans come and be a part of that meeting and kind of really take more of a stakehold into the market and know what was going on. And so we had that, and we just kind of give an update, and so I'll just kind of give you the same update that we gave them. So in 2023, we had 120 vendors at the farmers market. Now you become a vendor by putting in an application, and we've had vendors that have been members for several years. You know, Robert Stone, who recently retired, was a vendor for 30 plus years or more. So we have a number of vendors. Our top selling items in 2023 was our local meats was the top. Bread and baked goods. One of those things is with the success of Hopewell Bake Exchange, produce and eggs. So those obviously are our top things that people are coming in to come and purchase. All of that, of course, is local, and most of those things on those top things were all produced in Bourbon County. December is one of our best months at the market to the support of our local community coming and buying Christmas gifts at the market, coming and buying local goods and giving those to their friends and family. A lot of gift certificates going out. Local businesses such as Stockyards Bank coming and getting gift baskets for their patrons and larger customers at their bank. Throughout the summer, starting in June through October, we participate in the senior program and the WIC program. So of course those dollars help provide local fruits and vegetables to people in Bourbon County. Obviously the seniors they can get that from the senior citizens, and then of course WIC. And our market does something that we participate in the Double Dollars program, and so those people get that card from through the state. Those are dollars from the states, but we can kind of partner with that and basically double their money. So you're gonna come to the farmer's market and have a card that's worth $50 worth of vegetables. Now it's really high tech, they have like a little debit card that they have. But when they bring that and they show us they're part of the program, they get to come inside the market and we give them $50 more. So they get to spend $100 on their fresh fruits and vegetables from June to October. And so we gave out $1,865 in double dollars, and we had $1,310 redeemed in that, which we were really proud of. And those served people not just in Bourbon County, but in surrounding counties as well. We had several people come in and say, oh, you all have such great variety. I didn't find that in my local community. So they were coming over from Winchester or Cynthiana and using their dollars and spending them here in Bourbon County. And we had around $2,000 in vendor sales from those used with those senior dollars. So in total, that's about $3,300 in local produce, fruits and vegetables to those who might not have been able to access it. One of the things that I think about is, as I see those people bring those in, I know that there's people that we're still not reaching. People that are, maybe can't go get those senior cards because they can't get to the senior citizen center, or they get the card but then they can't make it to the market. And of course, those cards are really mainly being used on Saturdays, and so maybe the bus to the market would only run on Tuesdays or something. And so really this year wanting to think about how we can better provide access to those people who have those dollars so that we're best serving our community. So we had two major events, in 2023. So the first was in the summer we tried Meet Me in Paris. Meat as in MEAT, and that was able to showcase all of our local meat vendors. And so we had a local chef from Georgetown come in, and she took a cut from every person. We had bison, beef, pork, lamb, and chicken. And she prepared that in a way that, we were giving her like, well, let's do tacos for this one, and she like blew us out of our minds. Like she had different recipes, and we had a line at 6 o'clock for people that were ready to come and try the food. And that was a really big success because some people like Wade Farms that do pork and beef, they don't come and set up regularly at the market. They sell their meat inside. And so that was able to give them an opportunity to meet those people, meet their customers. They really liked being able to meet those people face to face and hear about, I come and buy your meat all the time at the market, and just kind of getting to know those people. So that was a big success, and we hopefully are going to do that again here this next summer. And of course, our annual fundraiser is Picnic on the Creek, which is hosted at Captain Tuttle's. Ralph and Donna Quinlan are very gracious to allow us to come and use their facility for a very cost-effective price. We actually, at our annual meeting, honored Ralph and Donna with the Friends of the Farmers Market Award for their support of the market the last several years. And so that has been taking place in August, and it's been a great success. A lot of community people, locals, even people from Lexington and different places coming. And just having a good time, listening to some music and learning more about local foods. One of the things that, if you don't remember anything that I talk about today, our farmers market is one of the only ones in the state that has an actual storefront that is open year round. And that's really, really special. If I could count, there's probably less than 5. Because they just don't have the finances to be able to be open year round. They're open seasonally. They have a shelter that they can pull under. But we're really, really lucky to be able to have that. Not just because we can allow our community to have access to fresh vegetables, locally produced meats, crafts, honey, jams all year long, but also that gives people like myself to be able to make a revenue all year long with our business. And hopefully, as we personally try to grow, that things like that allow us to better serve our community, be able to, do more infrastructures and things. So that's really, really important. And if you're ever out of Paris and you get a chance to talk about that, I would say that's really, really something that's very special in our community, and I know a lot of people don't know that or realize that, and so Paris has got a real gem with the farmers market. And if you haven't been there, which I know all of you have been, please come and visit us. Like I said, we're open Monday through Friday, 11 to 6, and on Saturdays, 9 to 1. And when it gets a bit warmer, not like it is today, we'll start having vendors set up back outside on the weekends, and then look for any kind of events that we might have coming up. We'll get them to the paper for that. So, does anybody have any questions? I would be happy to answer anything. Well, thank you. I appreciate letting us come and tell you a little bit about the market. And again, we appreciate the city's support.
Thank you for that great update.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. So we will keep rolling. We do have a pretty hefty agenda today. So the next item we're going to talk about is the first reading of ordinance 2024-1. If I may, I'm going to set the table for a couple of things that we're going to talk about today as a bigger picture, so that as we roll through them, we have that frame of reference from the beginning. So as you all are aware, we have been working diligently on the relocation of the transfer station project. We have received a grant for that for $2 million. We originally opened the bids, which did come in higher than anticipated. So we've rebid that. We will be opening those bids later this month, February 21st. And so what we're setting the stage for today is we're just trying to get the ball rolling so that once we do open that bid, we're ready to start moving and we have any financing needs placed in order. So we took the approach, we're trying to put as many tentacles out there as possible to get as many good funding opportunities as we can. So our goal is to continue to seek grant funding is our first priority. We appreciate receiving funding from other agencies. That's always our preference. So you will see today where we're trying to secure some additional grant funding related to this project. Our second is we will be looking to try to work with KIA to secure some funding because it is at the lowest rate that we've found. And then we are trying to put some items in order to be able to issue some debt to cover anything that we're not able to cover through those other avenues. We'll talk about some other things related to financing, but that gives you the bigger overall picture. So the next item that we do have, because we like to keep our ordinances at the top of the meeting and then go through the flow, we have Joe Lakofka and Brian Skinner here today from RSA Advisors. They are our financial advisors to talk to us about the bond process. And so they have a debt capsule that they're going to present to you to talk to you a little bit about where our debt currently stands. We do have a current debt for the meters that need to be acted upon to convert that to long-term debt, but we're also looking to fold in what we do on the transfer station project from here. So hopefully that's a good introduction, and I will turn it over and then we can answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. We're happy to be here in front of you again today and talk about options. We've been working with staff for a couple months now, reviewing the overall financial structure, and they've done a wonderful job of seeking out, as you know, the grants and potentially the KIA financing, but there are some other financing needs that we kind of need to address, and that one of those is a note that's maturing in April and provide adequate funds in the event that something happens where the grant doesn't come through or the KIA financing doesn't work. We're going to have financing lined up and in place for you to make sure you can get your transfer station done and any other potential projects. So Brian's prepared an overall a snapshot of all of your debt, a lot of detail there. We can go through as much of that as you want, but then also you have the ordinance in place with a general, we really don't have the amount defined in there yet. Our hope is by the time we're ready to do second reading, we know how much money you do need, and then we can define that more. But I'll turn it over to Brian and let him kind of walk through the big picture in terms of your debt and needs.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. Again, yeah, Brian Skinner. I won't go through all of this to the number. I know seeing a wall of numbers here and talking municipal bonds on a Monday or Tuesday morning, see, I don't even know what day it is. It's not the most enjoyable thing. So just going quickly over page 1, just so we have a handle on your debt outstanding. And I will just say, overall, compared to a lot of cities, you guys do not have much debt at all. You've done a good job cash funding and paying off debt over time. The top section is your governmental activities. That's more general government things. You'll see you've got a couple bank notes for police cars, fire trucks, street sweepers. You've got no debt on, say, a lot of cities would have a big debt on a city hall or something like that. You guys have done a good job to keep your general government debt very low. On the right side, you'll see your interest rates have been very low over time. Recently, when you did in 2024, this brand new, the new police car thing, as everybody's seen in the news, interest rates have been up a little bit. So that's the only thing that's a little bit higher, but again, that's market. Done a good job getting the short-term loans done. Down at the bottom are your business type activities, your utility debt essentially, and that's kind of what we're mostly looking at today, that transfer station. You've got one there at the top, 2014A, that we're proposing possibly restructuring that. We'd be about in the same interest rate range, but to ease a little bit of your budget, we may want to restructure that with the new borrowing so that we can keep your payments a little bit lower and work that in over time as we add in this new debt. So unlike a home mortgage where your payments are level for 30 years, we can adjust and pay the amount of principal basically that we want to over time. The other debt on there, low interest rates, we would not suggest refinancing, restructuring any of that. Again, not a lot of debt. You've got that 2022 KIA that you haven't drawn on yet, that is still there. That's why it's 0. Doesn't mean you've paid it off, it means you haven't started using that yet. Down at the bottom, we include this, but I want to stress this is your legal debt capacity for general obligation debt. So that top section, that governmental activities. We're not saying that you can afford to borrow this, but legally you're allowed to borrow about $41 million based on your assessments in the city. Again, doesn't mean you can afford it, but you're legally allowed to do that. Yeah, and then, as Joe's pointing out, the note on that business type activities at 2021, we did do as a general obligation, and that's what's due on April 1st of this year. So that's kind of necessitating getting these readings of the ordinance done so that we can have a new borrowing to pay that off. The next page, I won't go too far into. We worked with Brad and Jamie and Stephanie on this quite a bit. This is your debt service coverage. Basically, there's no necessary legal limit when you do utility debt. It is what can your revenues cover. Right now, your revenues are doing good. We know you do have that KIA debt and a couple other things rolling on, so that's why we were suggesting taking a look at restructuring that one. But again, won't go through this. You guys are in pretty good shape. Meet the debt service coverage. You've got revenues to cover this. You feel comfortable that you're not getting in over your head on something like that. Next page, just debt service interest rates for different terms, 2-year, 10-year, 30-year. This is over a year. This is a AAA curve, so you won't be getting these exact rates. You'll be getting probably 50 basis points higher than that, so half a percentage point higher. You'll see they kind of peaked in November, coming down a little bit. I will say, not sure what they're going to do today, the next week, but as the Fed indicates that they're going to lower rates, our bond rates go down. We don't necessarily move when the Fed moves. We move more on what they say. So we've got, Fed minutes coming out next week. So, rates could move on what they say. If they say, well, we think we're going to lower rates a few times this year, rates will probably go ahead and go down. If they say, oh, we're going to wait a little bit, our rates will probably stay where they're at. Again, just jumping through here, page 4, this is just your general debt for the police cars and fire truck. Again, it rolls off short-term notes, not much debt service you have there. You guys have done a good job kind of cycling those in as needed. I'll skip through those. Your page 6 is your utility fund debt. This excludes that $2.5 million bond anticipation note that'd be due this year, or else you just have a really big spike right there that nobody wants to try to pay that. So this also doesn't include that new KIA loan because you haven't drawn on that yet, so we won't know when that'll start, what the payments will be. Just flipping through, probably to page 8 is kind of option A. This assumes $4 million in borrowing for that transfer station or for other new money projects, and paying off that van, converting that van bond anticipation note to long-term financing. So that yellow bars, as you can tell, the first couple years, debt goes up, it'll come down a little bit under that option. Again, your revenues would probably be fine. You may be a little stressed in the first couple years, because it's such a jump up in debt service. But again, that is kind of a policy decision, not really for us. The second option that we're suggesting you take a look at is on page 10. And this is restructure, the same deal as before, but restructuring that 2014A, basically so we can shift some principal to the later years. We move your debt service more to $400,000 in the first few budget years, which historically Brad sent us some information we didn't include. It's kind of where you've been. You recently had some debt roll off. So historically 400,000 has been about where you've been at. So we try to keep it there and then slowly ramp up debt service, as in theory rates increase and, budgetarily you can stomach a little bit of an increase each year as opposed to one big jump all at once. So that would be an increase of around $15,000 to $20,000 in debt service a year on that scenario. So that's basically the overview that we have. Have any questions at all? Joe and I can talk about municipal bonds until lunch. That's about it.
So if I may, before we dive into questions, I'll just read, ordinance 2024-1 is an ordinance of the city of Harris, Kentucky, approving a lease agreement for the financing of a project, providing for the payment and security for the lease, affirming the maintenance of the existing sinking fund, and authorizing the execution of various documents related to the lease. We are not required to have a motion and a second because this is first reading, but wanted to read that in so then we can have a discussion. Appreciate all the work that went into it
Yes,
between Brad and I, and talking with Stephanie. We do look at, I think we are leaning towards recommending that we consider option B, that with the theory that would allow us time to adjust rates. We've had discussions that we know that some of our capital needs are going to result in a need to adjust rates, and we do have the rate study going on. We have provided all of this rate information as well to those doing the study. If you don't mind talking briefly about, so the way we have it structured and written up today would be to address the funds for the meter project that would be coming due, restructure the one loan, and provide an up to amount of $4 million for the transfer station project. We talked briefly about the fact that we were looking to secure other funding opportunities at a lower rate for the transfer station. Can you guys talk briefly about if we issue this debt and then receive funds elsewhere, what could we be doing with this debt, and how can we not have it cost us too much money to worry about?
Yeah, so yeah, basically we are proposing you do this as a general obligation debt, since you guys have plenty of room there, get you the best rate, you don't have to borrow a reserve fund. But what we've seen in the market, and you've seen on the news with these interest rates going up, is it's the short-term rates that are higher, what the Fed, the overnight funds rate is. So we're actually able to invest any project funds, idle funds, at your bond yield where you're borrowing the money or above. So long as we spend the money within a certain amount of time, you're legally allowed to earn arbitrage. So we can borrow the money, we'll park it into investments so long as rates are where they are, and be able to basically offset any interest expense on those monies. If you're able to And since we're doing it as general obligation, you're able to spend that money on other projects as you see fit.
Which frequently happens, sorry, Jamie, just to add on real quick, that happens with communities, particularly like when rates are very low, they look at their capital needs, I want to go ahead and borrow X amount to cover any future capital needs, and then project shifts, the dollar amount needed here may shift. As long as it's another governmental approved project, you can use those same funds for those other projects.
And so we've been working
Yeah.
hard to build our capital program, and we certainly have a roadmap of plenty of projects that we'll need funding for in the next 1, 3, 5, many years after that. But, so I think from a staff perspective, we're comfortable and confident that we could spend those dollars wisely on other projects if it comes to that. Certainly that would be through commission action. We wouldn't just arbitrarily place those funds into another project.
Sounds great to me. Project option B is my choice, and thank you all for your due diligence. And thank you. So I appreciate this. This is pretty good moving forward, good information.
Yeah, just to kind of add to what Brian had said earlier, you know, when we look at our prior debt, especially on the utility fund, from 2015 up through 2020, you know, we probably had debt obligations at right around 650,000, almost up to 700,000 in some years, depending on interest and principal. So that's kind of what we had set out to do, is we thought keeping anywhere between 450 and 550 from a debt service moving forward. We felt pretty comfortable with that. And obviously, you know, 2015 through 2020, if you looked at the utility fund, servicing that debt, with the way the revenues and stuff were at that point in time, was pretty good for us. And with how we've kind of started restructuring a lot of the fees and those kind of things, I think we feel pretty comfortable as well too, kind of moving forward.
Yeah, it's what it looks like to me, just under 600,000.
Yeah.
Looks doable to me. So.
And I think that with the assumption, as we create the new rate structure, holding and knowing where we are going to be on debt and the future needs as well. Any other questions?
So this will be first reading.
This is first reading,
All
yes.
right, thank you.
Brian, anything that you want? Thank you both.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, Brian.
Appreciate all your efforts.
It's a team effort for sure. Thank you. That will bring us to another first reading. This is of ordinance 2024-2, which is an ordinance related to the rates and charges for disposal at the Solid Waste Convenience Center. So we have been looking at our rates, a number of our rates for a number of things, but it's only timely and makes sense for us to be looking at our Solid Waste Convenience Center rates. When we talked back a couple months ago about the transfer station project, I provided some information to show current operations and the current rate. It is not covering even what we're doing today, not necessarily even considering the fact that debt would be issued. So I provided some information that shows some other comparison communities, provided some information that shows what our revenue looks like in these areas. Some of the things that, so first thing that we'll talk about is we are proposing that we look to make the rate go from $80 a ton to $85 a ton. And then the second item is that currently there is a minimum charge of $10 for a minimum charge. And comparing that with other communities, we're recommending that be a $30 minimum charge. We've provided some cost estimates that will allow for an additional revenue of an anticipated between $35,000 and $40,000. So we certainly know that that still does not cover the usage of this facility. We're trying to take an incremental approach. We know we have a lot of funding needs, so we're just trying to take a first step on these rates. But it's not covering what we do need to to cover the rates of this facility. So we felt we were taking a modest approach as a first step here, but that was what we came up with for a recommendation to consider.
Go for it.
Yeah, we can't go in a deep hole, we gotta keep up. If we don't, we'll look up one day and say, hey, we gotta raise this by $100. So
Yeah.
I think small increments now, plus like everything else, I still think we need to look at some alternative methods to fund this. Ideally, an alternative container tax could help.
That would help.
A meal or something on every bag that Walmart puts out could go a long way in providing a service there for trash and pickup, but that's probably a discussion for another day. Will this be first reading of this ordinance?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is first reading. The other thing that I will put out there just as a discussion topic, but we don't have to necessarily decide to make any changes at this point. I've also provided some numbers that there is some lost revenue through some of the programs that we look for, such as the free dump month. There are some community partners, such as the school and the county, that have some dump arrangements as well. So those are things that we can continue to talk about. One of the things that we're looking at from an internal standpoint is to just to start tracking that information from even our internal departments. When our internal departments bring it over to the dump, would like to start tracking that so that, for example, if there's general fund departments using this, we can look at potentially, is it appropriate to make a transfer back to the utility fund? So we're just trying to make sure that the usage is charged to the correct departments and correct funds, and so that we're accounting for that. So that, from an internal department, that doesn't really increase the revenue, it just tries to make sure everything's in the
Track it
right
and see
bucket.
where, yeah.
Okay, so any further questions on that item? All right, thank you. That does bring us to consent agenda. There are 10 items on consent agenda. Is there any of them that we would like to pull off and discuss separately? Hearing none, may I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. That does bring us to regular agenda, moving on through. The first item is a municipal order 2024-8, which reads as a municipal order approving the filing of a lease agreement renewal with the Commonwealth of Kentucky for 525 High Street, Paris, Kentucky. So second floor, we do rent some space to the state. They are interested in renewing that rent location. Currently, the revenue is at just under $110,000. So we would recommend that that's a partnership that we want to continue at this time. We have a couple of options. We could move forward. We could go through their process of having them publish and see if there's other places that they want to move so that we could request a higher rate, or we can renew under the current terms and conditions. Taking a look at it, we're going to recommend that we just renew under current terms and conditions for a short period of time. So we are recommending we can go anywhere from 1 to 8 years for the next renewal. We are recommending just a small 2-year initial renewal. We feel in that time it will allow us to take a look through the process of, do we want to go through the steps of asking for additional revenue for them. The other thing that we can have some discussions on is, I know that there's been a lot of, what is this building and what are the maintenance costs that we're spending on this building, and just continuing to do some research into that. So we're not ready to make any action on that item. So we are recommending that we renew with the state for 2 years at the current rates.
So moved.
Go ahead, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion?
They're not asking for any additional spaces, are they?
They're not.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, Ms. Suddles, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Fields,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodrow.
Yes.
Motion carries.
This brings us to item B, the November utility fund financials.
Yeah, thank you. So as we kind of talked about at the last meeting, we were having some issues with the local government reports and everything. We've got that resolved, and so on page 146, you'll see the November financials for the utility side. Have total revenues at the end of November of $4,450,000. Total expenditures at $4,876,000, leaving us with expenditures over revenues by $426,000. Some of that items causing that expenses be over right now are kind of related to some of the funds for transfer station and also too on the water plant as well. We haven't really submitted any reimbursements in on those. We're kind of tracking those. And that's, we've got 10 million set aside as far as grants and loan funds on those projects. So as those kind of come due, we'll, kind of reflect those as revenues. So, but right now, some of those expenditures, we have not really reflected the revenues on. So, and then moving on to page 147 is still just another summary of the cash balances that was in the last meeting's packet. No changes on there. Still operating funds around $1,056,000. And then next several pages, you've got the detail line by line for the utility funds. So that's basically the November financials. If you guys have, as far as the motion and questions.
I move we approve the November utility fund financials as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions on this item? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to the December utility fund financials.
Okay, we're on page 168 here. So at the end of December, operating funds were at $1,108,165. Our restricted funds were at $1,556,000, and interest income year to date was at $29,434. As you can kind of see, at the same time last year, we're pretty much up over, especially on operating funds, just under $300,000 from 2022, and then obviously our interest income from the increase in rates and everything over the years, we're seeing that kind of a better collection on those as well too. And then on page 169, you'll see our revenues at the end of December are at $5,444,767. Expenditures were at $5,597,352, leaving us with expenses over revenues of $152,585. So saw a little bit of improvement in December compared to where we were at in November, mostly probably due to the higher fees on the billings for utilities and everything. So that is, and then from there we do have the detailed line by line for the utility fund.
I would move we approve December financials.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brad. That brings us to Resolution 2024-3 that reads, a resolution approving the filing of an application to request funding through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling SWIFR grant. So this is just a resolution indicating we had previously applied for the SWIFR grant. We were not successful in securing that grant the first time, but in anticipation for the window coming open again, we're asking for a debrief on our application, and we would like to just get the permission up front to go ahead and resubmit for that grant again. So that is what this resolution is requesting today. And for the record, we previously requested $1.215 million in that grant with some of the restructuring of the facilities. That might be a little bit lower because we don't need as much equipment as when we went ahead and cut back the building a little bit. But so that is what is on the table today.
So moved.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Any questions or?
How can they do that? In
Any particular?
So they have not announced when it's going to come. They said maybe sometime in spring. The intent is that it would be yearly for the next couple of years until the funds are no longer available, but we're kind of at the mercy of when they decide to put that out. Any other questions? Ms. Ellis, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Fields?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Withrow?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion carries.
That brings us to Resolution 2024-4, which is a resolution approving the filing of a letter of intent to request funding through the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. So I briefly already mentioned this, that our next path after grants is to secure funding through the KIA project process because their interest rates are the lowest that we can find. So we're looking to secure funding through the Fund B or C program. Typically, those funding are reserved for water and sewer type projects, so we're going to go ahead and put in our best effort to try to get funding considered for this project, but that is why we've put the other things forward, is we're not overly confident that this funding will be available to us, but we want to make sure to go through every door that we can. So the way we have this drafted up is we will either submit an application for up to $4.4 million, but we believe realistically, if this could be approved, the approval level cap would be more along the lines of $2.5 million. So we don't want to restrict ourselves. We want to get as much KIA funding as we can because of the interest rate. But we don't want to lose out on KIA funding because our request is too big. So we still have some calls in place to try to get an understanding of what is likely to be approved. And we're just trying to get that permission up front to go ahead and move forward on this process.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any?
Keep searching.
Turn it over rocks. So any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, Ms. Sells, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Fields?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Withrow?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Motion carries.
This brings us to Resolution 2024-5, which is a resolution approving the funding of certificates of deposit. So figured today was a good day of finance discussion. We'll get it all through in one meeting. We previously had RSA advisors come in and talk about some conservative ways to do some investments. They mentioned today that the rates on short-term money is higher, which is usually it's long-term money. So because the rates on the short-term money are up, we are proposing that we go ahead and issue some CDs. So Brett and I were taking a look at it, and Brett, I'll let you chime in, but we're recommending to take $3 million from general fund and $500,000 from utility fund and place them in rolling CDs at 6, 9, and 12 months, different funding periods, and I can provide a further breakdown of that. But we do anticipate that the potential increased interest earning be about $200,000 between, not just from the CDs, but also in discussions with our current bank about the interest rates that's being secured on all of our accounts. So that is our anticipated revenue increase through that partnership that we're looking at.
Yeah, just, if you look at our financials on the general fund, when we take out capital outlays, we usually average probably about $7.5 to $9 million in expenditures a year, and we do have that kind of saved up right now. So we basically have about a year's worth of savings to cover in our general fund, and so that's where we kind of felt comfortable taking the $3 million and kind of doing some stagger rolling of maturities on the CDs, and I think also too kind of helps out traditional bank as far as with what they've got secured with us as far as their collateral agreements as well, which I think in turn lets them to increase the overall interest rates on our regular accounts as well. And then also over on the utility fund, we've got the 2 trucks that are coming due probably towards the end of 25, one in 25, and then the one probably about mid-26. So that was the thinking, is to take the 500,000, because both those trucks are 250, try to time the timing of those maturity with when those trucks are going to be delivered, and all that. So I think we're, looking at the construction fund, which we've been transferring over the meter fees into that account. We're getting close to about 1.6 million in that account as well too. So kind of feel comfortable with that as well, that we're not really looking to probably use any of those funds in the near term.
Sounds good. I'd move we did approve the investment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do I know, we are looking at, and have been looking at other entities as well to make sure that we're making the most prudent decision, but gives us the best results. There are other entities out there with different rates, and it is always kind of a moving target, so that's why this is written in a way to provide us with a little bit of flexibility there. But when we really kind of are starting to crunch the numbers and look at some of that, the change on our rates for our regular accounts is what's going to drive a good portion of that. So you may see some decisions where, we place a CD and another entity for just that 3-month they have a higher 3-month, this one has a higher 6-month. So we're trying to take a holistic look at that, but we are looking at all of the entities in the area.
But we're not obligated, right? Is there, Brian, by competitive or whatever bidding or?
Not for that.
Okay.
No, we're just doing our due diligence.
One thing, our hands aren't tied on that.
Right.
Not going that way, if we're borrowing.
The other way,
If
yeah.
we're borrowing, right.
Any other questions we can answer on this item? Ms. Ellis, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Withrow,
Yes.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Fields.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That brings us to Resolution 2024-6, which is a resolution approving the filing of an application to request funding through the fiscal year 2023 Assistance to Firefighter Grant. So this is a grant that we are looking to apply for this year to assist with funding of the pumper engine, the truck that we, a couple meetings back, talked about going ahead and getting the RFP process started. So trying to search out some funding. This one would have between a 5 and 10% match if we were awarded the grant. So I always like to bring to you guys when we're trying to go for a grant that has a funding requirement or has a tail end funding. So for example, there's grants out there that can help you fund personnel, but you have to keep them on staff for a while afterwards. So there are grants that we go after that have no match and no further commitment that we just go after, but want to make sure when we're committing to anything or asking to commit to anything that has a tail or a match, that we're communicating that to you all.
When we look for grants or apply for grants, who puts all that material together for
Well,
us?
It depends, I guess is the best answer. It depends on the grant that we're looking at. There are some grants that the departments have done time and time again that are smaller grants. So for example, the KLC safety grant between HR and Kevin, I think did the one the year before, and Stephanie's done one too. It's kind of all hands of who can write that up. This AFG one, the department is writing that up on their own. We occasionally use the Bluegrass ad on some grants. There are other partners in the community who are willing to help write a grant, but the way the Bluegrass ad doesn't generally charge us for writing the grant. If there's any grant awarded and they administer it, then there's some funding required there. So it's a variety. It's one of those things. There's a lot of funding out there and available. But grants can be
I was
very
just
time
wondering, who
consuming.
does the look for these grants and then puts it all together and then sends it out and does follow-up? That's a lot of time.
We do not have anybody dedicated to do that. So it's just kind of as we can. So for example, I think Mike identified a grant the other day and I sent him one on bridges. So we just, it's a team effort. It's not a centralized position or anything like that.
Okay. So move.
Second.
Any further questions? Ms. Sells, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Withrow,
Yes.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Fields,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so that brings us to item 9, reports for our outside agencies. Ms. Betty Ann, do you want to kick this off?
Brought you all some information today. Bourbon County is part of Licking Valley Adventures, and I brought their most current grant. We're also part of the Bluegrass region, so I brought that. So these brochures, we're listed in all of them, are distributed throughout the counties that they encompass. This is just a temporary brochure that I did in-house because our new brochure that's being done by professionals is not ready yet. So it'll be coming soon. Also, I'm pleased to announce that we have a sponsor this year, the first time since I've been doing tourism for our art walk, and it's Bluegrass Federal. So if you all see Bluegrass Federal, thank them for their support, their community support. They support lots of projects and actually came to me and wanted to be part of Art Walk. So we are very pleased to have them. Art Walk is April 19th, 6 to 9. Of course, the street will close down at the discretion of the police department. They usually close the street down earlier, 3:30, 4 o'clock, so that everybody can get in and get ready. And then by the time everybody gets out and cleans up, it's probably around 10-ish or so. That's what it's supposed to be. I want to add some, and I did bring, this is what I know right now for events that are upcoming throughout the rest of the year. Now, I know that this was going to change, and some of those dates will change too. It's just what I know right now. So that's a living, breathing document that will change. I'm going to be working to get the events on our new community calendar, which is located on our new website. So that will take a while. I want to add to what Holly said this morning about Farmers Market. Farmers Market also serves as the welcome center for Bourbon County. And we have a booth inside, tourism does, that we keep stocked with brochures and information and things like that. Tourism is also a vendor. We sell, you've seen the little bumper stickers that have the horse on it. We've sold, every time I can get Eiffel Tower Christmas ornaments in there, they sell. T-shirts, if we happen to have any T-shirts. It's very, we also have a kiosk out front that we try to keep stocked as well as we can. The ladies that work over there are very, very knowledgeable. I feel very comfortable having them giving out information. Holly told me that during the Legends of Bourbon County Festival, when there were so many people in town, they got lots and lots and lots of questions that they were able to answer. I have had Tony call me if she doesn't know the answer to a question. So they're very good at representing Bourbon County. They also have regular hours, and they're open later than the tourism office, and they also have Saturday hours. So we're very pleased to work with them as well. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I had an extensive phone call with our rep, Neil Graves at Retail Strategies yesterday. The synergy and the interest in the properties that are available right now is probably the highest it's ever been since our contract. So we're looking at properties that are in front of the ones in front of Walmart, the one next to the new fast-paced urgent care, the property next to where the car wash will be going. Those properties have a lot of interest from those national retailers right now. Another property that we're really trying to start some interest in and really working with the property owner on is the property behind McDonald's. He has presented a residential plan that also on the facing Matlack Drive that would have a strip option that would face Matlack and then have some residential options behind there. I think that if we could get him up and going, that would be a really good option as well for bringing in some retailers at that location as well.
When you talk about residential options, apartments?
He's wanting, what he's presented to me, and this is just very early, like obviously it's not even gone through like planning and zoning, but he's just talking about it as patio homes. So it's not a ton of homes that would go there because it's only like a 14-acre parcel. But what he would like to see is a strip mall facing, or a strip business center facing Matlack Drive, and then behind there would be some residential options that would go to Bethlehem Road. So if we could get that really up and going, there's a lot of interest there. Nobody wants to just build a restaurant there and not have any other options there as well. So that's something we're really trying to push because there's so much traffic that goes through there. It's right next to the school. A lot of people want to be on the AM side of going to Lexington, but that's just not an option. We don't offer that right now as an option. So we're really trying to push that. Another area we're working on really trying to look at is the very tip of, we're next to Shell going out on Lexington Road, the very tip of that property. We know it's a floodplain, but if we could get something small in that upper corner of that property, that would be a really good option as well, considering some of the things that we have showing interest in the area. They're smaller footprint builds. So those are what we have going on right now. We still have interest in the Save-A-Lot strip mall for a couple different options. That would be like a smaller box type store options. So those are still on the table for potential. They're calling them warm. There's hot, warm, and cold. They're calling them warm. So it's just trying to get those interests, or trying to get the owner of the properties to see, okay, can we move some stuff around to make that work? Lastly, something that I really spent a lot of time going over with them was there's stuff coming into Bourbon County that will pique interest for some revitalization projects, some purchasing going on that will pique interest for potential retailers to come in as well. So I was really selling some of those things that are happening, some of those revitalization projects downtown, things that like really just sell our community. So I thought that I think that we have a lot of synergy as well going on to where our community is very sellable right now. So I was really excited about their response to that. And then lastly, there's one more property that I spoke with Gary Brand about that he's selling on the bypass that's next to Rico's, between Rico's and O'Reilly Auto Parts. So it's a small property, and there's another property that has piqued some interest for retail strategies as well. So they're gonna submit those properties to some of our businesses that have shown interest, so. That was a really good update. We were on the phone with it for an hour and a half yesterday, so I was really excited about the conversation that we had, and he's excited with where things are going as well. So his goal by the end of our contract this year, specifically like with a bigger like grocery option, is to at least get us on the map for like being sought after for a grocery option. So you know, whereas before we didn't really have a property that was opportune for a grocery store, we now are starting to have that property, you know, on the corner of 460 as an opportunity for a grocery store. So that's our goal, is to start selling Paris as an open for business opportunity for a grocery store as well. You know, it probably will not, a deal is not going to happen by the end of this contract, but just to start selling Paris as an opportunity. So that's all I have as far as retail strategies goes. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Secondly, we are working on the Tour de Paris 5K right now. That is April the 20th. Thank you all so much for your all's approval for that. I think that it's a really good little tourism boost to the economy the morning of that event, and it's just a good event that we bring to the community every year. Secondly, we're working on sealing our deal for the Legends of Bourbon County naming rights sponsorship this year. I should be able to announce that probably at the next meeting, I would say. We have a couple of things that we're working on squaring up with them on that. And then something that we're also wanting to do along with the Legends of Bourbon County festival this year is to do a Triple Crown race series that would be on 3 different farms, 3 different 5Ks that would go along with the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. Instead of doing that during the festival weekend, it would kind of extend it out, but it would really highlight the thoroughbred properties that we have here locally. So I'm excited about that opportunity as well, and the horse farm's interest in wanting to invite people onto their properties as well. So, and then lastly, we have Leadership Bourbon County applications are currently open for anybody that is interested in taking part in that this year. It's a really good program. We've had really great success with it. So if anybody is interested, those applications are open. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Belcher?
I want to keep it to code enforcement because that's kind of our shining star at the moment. We've had quite a few long-term projects, some in the county, some in the city, that we've been able to get some actual voluntary compliance on that have been issues for a while. Bobby's our code enforcement officers picked out some specific ones that we're working on. I will say, I don't want to make this a celebration because it sounds a little weird, but we did get our first citation payment, which is, we had, clapping around the office because that's been a long time coming. So we're not celebrating that. We don't want to do the citations, but that's the situation you get to when you can't get compliance. So the first one came in last week, and that's been kind of a big step for us. And we will start having code board meetings. People are contesting the citations. If you haven't already started getting calls of people getting upset that they've got citations, I would be shocked if you don't get them soon. I'm seeing some laughs that tells me you're already getting those calls. And I will say that the NOV, the notice of violation stage, is the area where we can work with people. When we put the citation down, it's kind of hard for us to work with you too much at that point because of the way the ordinance is written. And Bobby, a lot, tries to work with people in the NOV stage. NOV typically means call him and he will work with you. He'll tell you what the issue is, and you can get a plan of action together. It's the people that don't respond, or that some just say, I don't care, I'll just pay the fine, which is an interesting strategy, but that's theirs to choose. So that's been a big part of what we've been going on over the last month. And I'm very proud of the work we've been doing there, and I think we're seeing people start to really take code enforcement seriously and to understand that you gotta actually maintain your property and do some of these basic things. It's a long road, but we're getting there, so that's been exciting. And then Planning Commission will be Thursday, and Board of Adjustment is a week from today, Tuesday. So those are our upcoming hearings, so.
Thank you. Bring us to staff reports, any staff?
Just a couple of things. I noticed on improving the CDs when we were doing our research that the investment policy dated back to 1994. You can see that down on the bottom. So we're working on kind of reading through that and making some corrections. I think one thing that we kind of pinpointed out was looking at maybe doing an investment committee part on that, and for review of everything as well too. Let's see, budgets were rolled out to department heads Monday, so we've got till around the first part of March to work with them on the operating side of that part of the budget, and I think that's about it.
That's odd.
They should be here next Tuesday. So we had a preliminary exit conference yesterday with them as far as going over some of the adjustments, and got couple more questions last night to go through to get answered for them. So they should be here for the next meeting to present.
Thank you, Brent. So bringing up a couple of things, we've been talking about some of the audits and looking and changing that we've been doing through our utility billing process. So wanted to bring up some of the things that we've been looking at. We've increased some sign-off processes. Those are not different from what we're doing, but we have looked at the way the PCA has been calculated. We've been working with NewGen, our utility rate setting people, to try to just make sure we're doing things in a way that is a best practice for the industry. So we've been looking at moving to a quarterly calculation for that, and then a review and reconciliation after a quarter is over. The hope behind that is, one, it'll provide a little bit of stability in the bills. So currently we change the PCA rate monthly, and some of the feedback I receive from some of the residents is it causes just a little bit of those spikes and valleys quite a bit. So in reviewing the process and talking with the auditors, we have identified that there were some calculation item issues that we experienced a couple of years ago that will be going back, and if there's any, there's some overbillings that would be credited. We're also looking at about 150 electric accounts and the way they're classified under our ordinance, if they're in the right area. We've actually looked at all of the accounts, but there's about 150 that we have come to the conclusion are probably not classified correctly. So we're going to work through that process, and if there's any credits or adjustments, we'll issue that as well. We're also looking at reconciliation between our Neptune 360, which is our meter reading system, and our billing. We've added some new steps in there to help identify if there's any accounts that are not in the billing system that are having usage. So we've had a couple of process changes. So you may see some changes, you may see some calls, there'll be some credits applied for some overbilling, but we're also doing physical inspections of the meters. So the meters are going out and making sure we have this meter and it's associated with this house. Is that accurate? So staff is doing a lot of looking at not only what we do, why we do it, and just trying to tighten that process as much as possible. So we have identified a couple of things, and we'll make those corrections going forward. Did want to bring up the Thursday, February the 15th, there is a webinar. Webinar is probably not the right term, but we will be at the library. The city of Lexington received a grant through the EPA for a sustainability report or plan. And so this is a regional 6-county report, and we are part of that area. So we will be showing a Zoom meeting where they will be going through some of the projects that they're proposing for this plan. So they'll be creating a plan, and then from there, they'll be looking for funding to fund the plan. So we want a seat at that table. We want to hear about the projects that they are anticipating to be in their initial plan. And then we want to share how those projects could impact our community. So this is a public meeting. Everybody's welcome to attend it if they're interested in this. And so that is Thursday, February the 15th, this Thursday, from 5:30 to 6:30 at the library. So we're very grateful the library will allow us to use that facility. So the way that will work is we will hear a brief 20-minute presentation from Lexington, and then we will talk as a community for those here in Bourbon County who choose to attend based on what they present to us. And then we will get back together with Lexington and say, here's the feedback on those projects and how they would impact Paris and Bourbon County. So encourage any public participation there. Do want to announce we plan to do a proclamation on March 4th at 1:30 for Garrett Morgan to celebrate his birthday. We know that he is a treasured inventor that's from Paris, and he's brought a lot of good to the community, so we want to make sure to recognize that. That'll just be right here in City Hall. Also looking at some of our leases here in this building, making sure that we have everything with current documentation. And the other thing that we are looking to maybe change a little bit how we do things is under continuing services contracts. So if we have items that cross departments like HVAC and plumbing, we're looking to say, is there a benefit? Can we bundle those out and get a provider on call, similar to what we do with our engineering services, to say when we have these issues, we have a primary point of contact. So we're talking about going through an RFP for each one of those. We'll probably start with HVAC because frankly, as we have gone through the winter, that's been the one that's caused us the most trouble. So we'll go through a process of looking to do a bid and get an HVAC vendor, a primary HVAC vendor under contract. And then from there, there may be secondary or tertiary vendors, but just trying to provide some consistency and get the best rate possible. So those are all things in the works. Obviously, we'll bring those to you for further action.
Okay, well, thank you for your efforts. Appreciate it, your whole team.
Yes, absolutely. We've got a great one.
I have nothing to say. Wallace?
Parks and Rec that sent out, invitations for, resumes for the coordinator's position. We had 40 applications. We have now whittled that down to 5, so hopefully the next 30, 60 days, we may have a new parks coordinator, so that's down the road.
Get some pretty good candidates.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Good.
That's all I've got.
Couple of things. How is the bid process going for the transfer station? Are we getting interest
We've had
again?
some people pick up the bids, so I feel pretty good that we will see some of the repeat players that we saw last time, and I've heard some new names in the mix, so we obviously don't know until the day those bids are due and they come in and we actually have them in hand, but I believe that we'll have some options to look at.
Okay. And the other thing I have, has Hinkle or the state or someone given us a timeline on when they're going to finish the work on High Street and when they plan to start the work on Main Street?
So when we discussed this at the end of last year, the discussion was probably would not kick up till it got warmer. So that's a pretty broad statement. So I anticipate that if I was a betting person, would say we'd be looking at April, May timeframe before we saw anything. But that's just my speculation.
Okay.
They haven't committed to a time.
Our citizens are concerned about the roller coaster ride on High Street, and then we have some merchants on Main who are concerned about what will the new work due to their business flow. So as soon as we can get some information out to the public about what will take place and when, maybe that will eliminate some of the phone calls.
Yes, and I encourage, it was more regular as there was a little bit more action going on, and we will pick that up, but I do encourage that we put an update on our front page of our website on the Main and High Street project, as well as the transfer station project. We try to update that monthly, so when you get those calls, it could be a good place to route them, but we'll make sure there's a nice update. I'll reach out to the state.
Okay, thank you.
There's a nice hump right here in front of the building. Come down a certain speed, you know,
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's a
roller
dip
coaster.
everywhere, it's just like,
I have two quick things. When I first took office in 2011, one of the first things I mentioned was recognizing Garrett Morgan. That I felt like he was under-recognized, and that flame's been picked up, and we've done a good job. I'd like to look at maybe some type of, put together some type of a group to fundraise, to maybe come up with a statue or something. I mean, they get the Secretariat park done, and it's amazing, but I'd like to see a statue on the city grounds, or of Garrett Morgan, and surely if we can raise money, you know, to do one, surely we can raise money to do another, and I just kind of want to plant that seed. I think it'd be a really cool thing to do, to have a statue of Garrett Morgan on the grounds here, or some similar recognition. We're getting there with it, but pretty amazing inventor when you look at how he changed the world. Secondly, Brian, do we have anything on the books about puppy mills?
Speak up a little bit in the microphone.
Puppy mills, I was asked if we had anything. We've had some folks show up in some local parking lots with different, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell the difference between a breeder and a puppy mill. And the second thing that's gonna upset people the most after abused kids is animals. And I've got quite a few contacts about some folks pulling into parking lots on Sundays and selling different breeds of puppies, and folks going to the owners of the lots trying to find, you know, and the officers being called saying we're not really sure what to do except maybe to trespass them. And I just thought, you know, if we didn't have something, if you could look around.
Yeah, well, to the extent they're trying to sell them, you've just got your general business principles that can apply, and I'm sure they're just selling without a license, without being set
Correct.
up. Off the top of my head, I don't know what we have on selling of animals. It's more
I think it is in there.
animals that make noises
There's also
and disturb their neighbors, but they're
a
very.
county ordinance about puppy mills.
All right, but we'll look, Tim, see what we have.
Okay, that's all I have.
I don't have anything, so I will move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
You want another piece of candy for that?